Hello, everyone. I'm Neena Gopal. Welcome to Global Express. This is where we dissect events that have an impact on India and its immediate neighborhood. Today, we'll be taking a good hard look at the Baisaran Bloodbath, the brutal, ghastly massacre by Pakistani terrorists of those unsuspecting tourists in Pahalgam who'd been lulled into a false sense of complacency. And of course, now the aftermath. Are India and Pakistan both nuclear-armed states hurtling towards a bloody confrontation? Will we see a Balakot 2.0 when Pakistan least expects it, lowers its guard? And why wasn't there an immediate response to Pahalgam? Right now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's strategy seems to be to tackle Pakistan's adventurism. Or should I amend that to the Pakistan Army Chief General Asim Munir's adventurism, where it's only unfolding, and we can see that India stick to usual boxes, the economic chokehold, shutting down the Wagah-Atari border, where a tiny trickle of goods goes through, it's hardly going to make an impact, and paring down our respective high commissions, declaring the military attaches persona non grata. The threat to scrap the Indus water treaty, that's a direct threat to turn Punjab, Pakistan's most prosperous and prized province, into a wasteland. Empty threat or not, Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly sees Pakistan as having crossed a red line with Pahalgam. It's put him on the spot during a very high-profile visit to Saudi Arabia, while the US Vice President J.D. Vance and his family were on an official visit to India. Most analysts are saying Pakistan is playing from an age-old playbook. They're drawing a parallel with Pakistan's, the terrorist massacre of the Sikhs in Chhattisgarh Singhpura in 2000, just as the US President Bill Clinton was about to address our joint houses of parliament. But we've seen the attack on India's parliament, the Mumbai 26/11 attack, all go unanswered, except for even Operation Parakram, which was really not really anything. We saw Pulwama though, and India respond with a Balakot. There hasn't been a Balakot so far. Will there be a military response is the big question. And is this what Pakistan wants? Because in its attempt to get the world's attention, the US's attention, is it attempting to bring the issue of Kashmir back to center stage and deflect from the embarrassment of the Jafar Express hijack by the separatist Baloch Liberation Army on March 11th, when an undisclosed number of Pakistan soldiers were killed by the BLA? Is Pakistan also realizing its rapidly diminishing relevance? I mean, it's largely irrelevant to the world. It's also, trying to show the two major superpowers. I mean, this is a question that I have, United States and China, that it continues to matter in this geopolitical tangle. US President Donald Trump has also slammed New York Times for calling the terrorists militants. So what is India's next move? Do we lash out militarily, or do we wait until we is the right moment? So on the show today are three of India's most well-informed experts on the region. We have General Sathish Nair, commissioned into the Rajput Regiment. He has extensive experience of tackling them and managing the line of control vis-a-vis counterinsurgency operations in that area, as well as high-altitude warfare in Sikkim and Leh. He commanded the CI force, which was responsible for the security in the Rajouri sector in the lower reaches of Jammu and Kashmir. Welcome, General Nair.
Thank you.
Also with us is Mr. Avinash Mohananey, a former officer with the Intelligence Bureau, very senior. He's served in Jammu and Kashmir. He's also served critically in Pakistan as well, and interacted with Pakistan army officers and its political elite. Prolific writer and a commentator. We're honored to have you on the show, Mr. Mohananey.
Thank you. Thank you, Neena.
And last but not least, welcome Ms. Luv Puri, author, journalist, and analyst. He's worked on peace and security issues for almost 25 years, served with the UN Department of Political Affairs in New York, worked on key assignments with the UN Secretary Generals and the Office on Counterterrorism. He's an award-winning journalist for his coverage of Jammu and Kashmir, who's done field work in occupied J&K, and he's a Fulbright scholar. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Ms. Luv Puri.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
First and foremost, let's look at the attack on the tourists in Baisaran. We've all looked at the way the Kashmiri tour operators took them up on horseback. And they seemed to be as shocked as the tourists were when the terrorists emerged from the surrounding forests. Killing 25 of them, including a Kashmiri Muslim horseman who attempted to come to their rescue. So, was this an intelligence failure? It's being said that the Tuesday massacre was a direct fallout of Pakistan Army Chief General Asim Munir's speech at Kakul, where he's raked up the Hindu-Muslim identity. He's talked about, he's talked about things which were pretty uncomfortable to hear. But do you think Jammu and Kashmir's status right now as a union territory and the fact that they've abrogated Article 370 and the fact that there is a patina, although reality may be different, a patina of peace despite the number of terrorist attacks that have happened, Mr. Mohananey. Do you think you've talked about the resistant front, you've talked about sleeper cells, you've talked about, people are talking about an intelligence failure because a lot of people are talking about how there was a buzz around the villages, that there were people moving about. What do you think? Is there a direct line between the Pakistan Army Chief's speech and Pahalgam? Does Pakistan still have the support of the local populace? And given how well planned this attack was there a tip-off on the fact that these were tourists, largely Hindu tourists, and many of them government servants? Why was there not even a single police outpost, Mr. Mohananey?
Yes, I would say that it was an intelligence failure in the sense that once the Jafar Express incident took place, Pakistan's army spokesman, Lieutenant General Sharif, had said so openly in a press conference in Islamabad that they will retaliate against the Baloch separatists. They would also retaliate against those people, those who are backing it and facilitating it, hinting at India also. So it was expected that there could be a possibility of retaliation. Now, where the retaliation is going to take place in India? Obviously, because they have the proxies present in J&K. So the obvious target was that some violence in J&K. It could have been on the security forces, it could have been on the civilians, or it could be whatever it is. Now, the failure of the government is certainly in the sense that they did not factor these issues into the tourism, the way tourism was going on. At least some alert would have been there. Some care or caution should have been exercised. But I think everybody was complacent in the sense that nothing is going to happen. Nothing has happened. Kashmiris are reconciled with the status quo. So I think one can take it easy. The problem is that the people who are at the helm have no poor understanding, I would say, of Pakistan. Because Pakistan has tremendous potential for mischief. They can recruit people at short notice. There is unending stream of cannon fodder available to Pakistan. They can do it. They can reopen the infrastructure, terrorist infrastructure, infiltrate them. We have seen it's happening. In trickles, yes, of course. They can send them and they can provide weapons. You have seen the American M4 rifles. Now these are available to them. And then they can direct them to attack as and when required. So the potential is there. The capacity is there. It's only a matter of time and decision when to strike. So this is what I feel is intelligence failure. The second is that the local support. Look, if there are, say, about J&K police says there are 60 foreign terrorists about 2-3 months back, they said. Maybe now there are 70, 80 or 90 or 100, it doesn't matter. But those 100 are moving in J&K on the upper reaches of the mountains, where from they are getting food. So some local support is there. But the problem is not the local support. The problem is that locals are not reporting the matter to the security forces, which they were doing it earlier.
I see.
So So what has gone wrong? What is this communication gap between the people of Jammu and Kashmir and the security agencies or security forces or the army or the police? Now, if this gap remains, this is the problem that they will not be able to generate the required intelligence. There will be very
Exactly.
trickles of intelligence coming only.
Okay,
So
so if I can understand correctly, what you're basically saying is that where earlier they had a communication line open with the local people, that has disappeared. Is that, can we put that down to the abrogation of Article 370, or is it because that's the way it is?
no, it is not the way it is, because these nomads are there. They always travel to the high reaches of mountains
Uh,
during the summer months. But the intelligence does come down about the movement. They would say they may provide food, etc. But they would also keep the army informed that, look, we have seen people, there are 10 people or 15 people we have seen going that side, or 5 people going that side. So army can chase them, or the police. The
yeah,
information keeps trickling in. It's not
correct,
that
correct.
it's that totally the channels have gone dry.
Yeah.
Now this doesn't seem to be happening.
Okay.
So
So to actually bring in Mr. Luv Puri, because you've covered like Kashmir also from the ground up, you've also mentioned the fact that the Bakarwals and the grazing, the herdsmen are the ones who basically are the ones who have their ears to the ground and have always had a good sort of rapport with the Indian Army. Do you think that that Pakistan, I mean, Pakistan's tapping into another source then to keep this, keep the Indian Army from, sort of putting pressure on the locals not to share information. Is that the new? I mean, it's not new. Obviously, it's been happening for a long time. But is that a factor that we have not taken into cognizance?
Yeah,
Because I mean, we pretended that Article 370, the application has had no impact, and that security is up, despite the facts being otherwise.
yeah. Thank you, Neena. Yeah, so I agree with Avinash ji, like what he said. There was it's some it's seemingly there's somewhat our system became complacent. Uh, you know, a congregation of 2,000 people in J&K, anyone who's like, and, our fellow esteemed panelists who have worked and served, our country in J&K know very well. 2,000 people gathered together. There's bound to be perimeter security. It wasn't there. Why it wasn't there? It needs to be investigated. But I think, this 5 years of period, we have somehow we thought that abrogation has a connection with the improvement of security. Empirically, that's irrespective of one's views about abrogation or retaining Article 370. The security doesn't have any connection with Article 370. Whether it is there or not, we're bound to face a trouble from across the border. There's a structural reality. We can go on, why it is there, as Avinashi mentioned, that they're always looking for opportunity, trying to divert, from their own problems. Then there's the question of their identity, whereas our identity is of a secular country, Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir being a Muslim majority country, Muslim majority union territory, earlier state. So it just defeats the idea of what they how they describe their identity. Coming to your question, why, like you talked about the sources of information. Okay, what has happened after abrogation is that our forces have definitely increased in Kashmir Valley, urban centers. Definitely there was end to stone pelting, definitely there. Even Chief Minister Umar Abdullah is on the record to have admitted that the stone pelting is down. We're saving precious young boys' lives. So that and parents are really thankful. If you go to downtown Srinagar, If they don't have to bear the peer pressure, they'll be thankful about that. But coming to your question, what has happened is we're talking about the Pir Panchal range, which runs from Mender all the way. It goes up to this area like Poonch, and then goes all the way to Kishtwar and Wadwan, and then Himachal. And on the Kashmir Valley side, you touch Shopian, and then you have, close to that is Pahalgam, and then you have this Baisaran Meadows close to that. So this is a vast area. And, whereas you
But
have...
isn't it monitored, Mr. Puri? Because I mean, Mindar, I remember going there, there was a CRPF outpost there where I spent the night.
Yeah. So Pahalgam, you have a lot of forces, definitely no doubt about that. Baisaran, it was just left unguarded. Why that? You have to get into that. Why, there's a structural reality playing out in Jammu and Kashmir right now, because in this abrogation, what has happened is there's a, again, this needs to be unpacked. Yesterday, Home Minister told the all-party delegation that somehow that area was open to tourists, and they didn't take the requisite permission from the police.
I saw that.
So the police is with the LG, Lieutenant Governor. So we always thought, that the control is with the center, and there'll be like kind of like foolproof security. Why did this is happening? Because ultimately the question is, when you have dual control, there's passing on the buck. There's going to be gaps. It's a vast state. It's a vast union territory now. So there's going to be, there has to be one command center. The buck stops with one person. That's it. The entire machinery has to be with that person. So when you have these dual controls, you don't really know, because ultimately the civil administration that provides the intelligence, or the various sources of information. When you talk about Bakawas, definitely, but who are the people close to them? You'll have the MLAs, community leaders, and who are these community leaders, MLAs close to? You'll have the political parties, then you'll have the police. But right now, there are parallel structures in Jammu and Kashmir, so the intelligence gaps are being created.
That's a very interesting point. If I could bring you in, General Nair, what do you think is the rationale? I mean, do you think it was enough of these punitive measures that have been taken by India so far? The so-called diplomatic strike that they're talking about, where they've downgraded diplomatic ties, and, they've, talked about scrapping the Indus Water Treaty. One of my Pakistani colleagues said that India has been talking about scrapping the Indus Water Treaty for a long time. That is nothing new, and that, they did go to The Hague over the Kishinganga hydro project some years ago, and the Hague ruled in India's favor. But is there any rationale really? I mean, is it sensible to deprive Pakistan of water? And depriving it of its, especially in the main cities, Lahore, Karachi, and Multan will be very badly affected. And now Pakistan's retaliated very, interestingly, by suspending scrapping the 1972 similar agreement, which basically, as we talked about earlier, lays down the line of control as the actual border. So what happens to the LOC? Is Pakistan saying we do not recognize the LOC as the border? What are the implications of that?
See, there are a number of issues which have been built into your question. So I'll first talk about the LOC. Now, whether Pakistan recognizes or continues to recognize the LOC or not really doesn't make a difference, for the simple reason that there are troops deployed on either side holding the defenses. And therefore, it is a status quo situation. So recognition is not important, and we have to continue the maintenance of the LC, like what we call the management of the LC, as has been done in the past. Now, regarding the other measures that the government has announced so far, whether there's any sense in it or not, I won't be too judgmental. But I can tell you this Indus Water Treaty, which has been held in abeyance, and if it is carried further over a period of time, it will really hit them. So therefore, this is this is something, a card that, trump card that we should hang on to and keep pressing home the advantage. But these are all measures which have been immediately announced by the Prime Minister. But there is going to be a retaliation to the best of my judgment, and it will take time. It will be at a place of our choosing and a time of our choosing. So till then, Pakistan and the general public of India will have to just hold their breath.
No, that's very interesting. That's a good point. Mr. Mohananey, if I could bring you in on India's response, do you think that this is, this diplomatic strike, basically, what did we achieve with that? What is it that we're trying to do? Are we, the economic chokehold is very important, because I think if we choke Pakistan's economy, that will hurt them a lot more. And also the other issue is about the Financial Action Task Force, which they are no longer on the watch list. Will this act, and India playing this up, require the FATF to look at Pakistan all over again? And then all that becomes, there's a question mark then about the World Bank and the monies that Pakistan expects to get. But at the same time, I mean, Pakistan has moved its forces. I mean, it's just like it shot down our after Balakot, when it shot down our IAF pilot. They are threatening, in the sense they've closed its airspace to Indian aircraft. They've moved their air defense assets, the airborne early warning control systems, the electronic intelligence units. So there is retaliation coming, because Pakistan is no pushover, right? So is Pakistan stoking fears of a war, or what should we be? What should we expect?
Yeah, first, let us talk about the Indus Water Treaty.
Okay.
We have kept it in abeyance. Do we have reservoirs that we can fill right now? No. So without reservoir, how we are going to stop the flow of water? So water would continue flowing. It's more symbolic than, of course, the real. Because all the projects on Chenab and Jhelum, whatever we have made on the Kishan Ganga River, they are all for producing hydroelectric power, as per the Indus Water Treaty. So we do not have dams to store water. So how we can?
That's a very good point, actually, Mr. Mohananey.
Yeah, we can't do that. Number two, economy of Pakistan is independent of India. So whatever they are in as such in a bad shape, but we don't supply much. There's no much trade taking place between the two sides. Maybe some trade through Dubai, etc., is taking place. Otherwise, there is no economic chokehold in our control. The economic chokehold, if there is one on Pakistan, is from the US and European countries, because there Pakistan gets GSP, General System of Preferences. Their exports to these countries are taxed at a very low rate. So that is why the Pakistani textile becomes competitive in the American and the European market. And their bulk of the export is to these countries. So this is the economic chokehold. If applied, it has to be by the US and the Europe, and not by us. Number three, yes, FATF is one institution or the one setup under which Pakistan was under pressure, and it got over after October 2022.
That's right.
After that, it got the access to the International Monetary Fund funding, and thereafter the IMF has ensured that the Pakistan doesn't go down. Look, no country in the world, all the powerful countries in the world, I would say, would not want Pakistan to go down, because it's a nuclear armed country.
That's true.
So if we think that we can dictate terms, I don't think so. It's a possibility. Now, if we do anything, as we did at the time of Balakot, we saw the retaliation from that side. So Pakistan is prepared for that. I hope we don't take that path. Because my understanding or my thinking is that it is time for us to give diplomacy a chance.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Because if there was open allegations, threats coming from Pakistan on Jafar Express or whatever it is, at least we should have used whatever little diplomatic channels we have directly or through UAE or this to at least give us the evidence or that Pakistan has. Pakistan has not given us any evidence on that, not even an iota of evidence, so that at least the two sides start talking on the issue.
That's a very good point,
Just
actually. It's
diffuse.
completely opposite to the noise that is being heard across the country asking for a armed response.
Yeah, as such, I am a peacenik, but but I would not like this to go into a conflict. I don't want to go.
Okay.
Not
So
say
moving
India,
on,
but
moving
Pakistan
on,
also. Both
moving
will suffer. The common people.
Yeah, I mean, I want to actually bring you back in Luv Puri because Pakistan has its foreign minister Khwaja Asif and its various other very prominent leaders have accused India of using false flag pretexts. And there's also a lot of, apart from the Baloch Kannad, there's also, the very interesting comment that he made saying that America has probably played a role in creating this, this event, this killing of the tourists, that it was actually staged. That's what Khwaja Asif has said in an interview today, which is quite a serious charge to make. And saying that America is meddling, which somehow I find it difficult to believe because in 2015, when Donald Trump offered to mediate, it didn't go down well in India at all. And what could America possibly achieve by intervening at this point? And you've mentioned Kaluchak in your article, and Operation Parakram being the war that I mean, basically it was a false as well. I mean, in the sense it was the greatest mobilization of troops on either side of the border. So, can we expect something similar? Is my other question, which of course I will also put to to General Sathish Nair after you.
Yeah. So, Neena, like we have seen this, like how, this plays out between India and Pakistan. And we, if one has, consistently tracked Pakistani narrative, their civilian leadership's narrative or their Pakistani army leadership narrative, that's a broken record to some extent. That okay, I think what he really meant was that the person you're talking about from Sialkot. So Khwaja Asif, he really meant was that America, is responsible for radicalization of our society, creation of this jihadi infrastructure, which has been, consistent narrative of theirs. And some of these guys, like I don't know whether he said that or not, but I didn't see the statement. But the more or less, I think this is in line with what if this is what he said, what their leadership always says, blames the US, for what is happening in Pakistan. It's kind of a blowback, like they used us against the Soviet Union and radicalize our society, etc. And this is and so it's like in
So
fact,
basically, you're saying that the civilian and the military leadership are basically on the same page this time, as they have been before. But although there was that difference in Kargil when Musharraf did give Nawaz Sharif quite a shock.
I think they have learned their lessons. And Shahbaz Sharif, as you know, like he's kind of a kind of like close to the army leadership. Nawaz Sharif may have tried, whatever peace moves in the late 90s. So when it comes to India, it's a Pakistani military that calls the shots. Let's not have any illusions about it. So it's a Pakistani army that will decide, like what they have to do. It's the civilian leadership. On India, like I really don't, weigh their statements, like kind of like really having a sort of like a lot of weightage, in the policy formulation. And there was one more question you asked, like, I think, though I'll defer to, General Saab, like, on the military capabilities of India, like, what sort of a approach India should have. But like, I've been privy to that process, like, to that phase, like 2001, I was at Kaluchak, when that incident happened, I saw
Wow.
that, when I mentioned in my article today about the cinema tickets, that were
Yes.
like found from
From Sialkot.
yeah. So when the army took them out, like, because they targeted.
So we should say this to the people who haven't read the article. You've said that there were terrorists who had cinema tickets from Sialkot in their pockets when they were
Yeah,
found.
yeah, I'm an eyewitness. I saw those tickets, like, when they were, taken out, because they attacked women and children, in the camp. So it was like, I think 4 or 5 a.m. They attacked these suicide terrorists, and then they, killed, I think, 28 or 29. So this went on. But coming to the substantive question, at that point of time, also we mobilized troops along the IB, LOC. I think the political leadership didn't give a green light at that point of time. This is what I was listening to General Parag yesterday. So, like, this is what I gathered. Like, we had the advantage till the first week of January, but after that, the Pakistan was also able to mobilize their troops, and then, we just couldn't do anything because, conventionally, more or less, when you fight, there's more or less we may be equally matched. Like, I don't know, like, I'll defer to General on that. So what, like, yes, to some extent, I think this attack was expected. Like, if I'm in government, like, I should have had my plans ready, like, what is to be done, and learn, and, have the institutional memory that, what has happened, what hasn't happened, how far we can depend on multilateral institutions. Again, I'm privy to that, phase. Then when 2008, that attack happened, the whole process at the UN headquarters in New York, India was trying its best to, like, to have Hafiz Saeed, etc., sanctioned. And then I won't get into the details. Then there were other guy, the Jaish-e-Mohammed guy. So again, this is the multilateral processes, but ultimately you have to fight your own battles. So, but
So do you think that we've chosen the right path then? Because I mean, all of these look like empty gestures so far.
I think to an extent, as I said, 2001, 2002, like, we couldn't, we somehow, like, whatever we did, we mobilized it. The terrorism didn't end after that. Okay. So we have learned the lessons. So, but when it comes to Indus Water Treaty, yes, we don't have our reservoirs on our side to store, etc. But, like, these three rivers, Pakistan is literally dependent on that. Okay. And we may not have the reservoirs, but if you withhold information about, okay, because as part of the treaty, you also have to, share information that, the water level has increased, etc. You take your precautions, etc. Floodgates, how you have to calibrate your floodgates. 2010, Pakistan was devastated by floods, Chenab,
That's right.
Jhelum, etc. Then Mangla Dam, is built on River Jhelum in Mirpur in Pakistan administered Kashmir. So, and that supplies electricity to entire Pakistani Punjab. Then there are other dams, the Bela. So I think, maybe the government must have done its homework, in this regard, that this is going to hit, because their response has been that this is an act of war. So I think
It is, yes.
I think this may prick them.
Yeah. Janana, if I can come to you, could you tell us something about what you expect? How do you see Pakistan's game? Because I mean, they are mobilizing troops. They are threatening missile attacks across the Arabian Sea. They've, and this is now becoming, I mean, Pakistan's strengths and weaknesses are obvious to us all. I mean, they have superior air firepower because they have F-16s, which are modern, as opposed to our aging MiGs and S-400s, for which we apparently don't even have spare parts because Russia hasn't given them to us as yet. We've got brand new Rafales, as yet untested in combat. So has India kept its security apparatus up to date? What do we need vis-a-vis our air power, our ground combat capabilities to monitor movement? Because, where do we stand militarily, General Nair, as opposed to Pakistan?
Yeah. Before that, Neena, two issues. I'd
Yeah.
like to differ to an extent with Mr. Avinash. First, regarding the Indus Water Treaty. Now, he says that we have no reservoirs, which is a fact. We do not have canals to divert the water right now. That's a fact. But you control the flow of the water by the dam. Now we are in the month of April. This is a time that the farmer would be sowing, or a little later, maybe in May, the first week of May, he'll be sowing. The levels of water in the dams now are little low, and therefore the ability to regulate the flow of water is with us. And without
That's
giving
very
any
interesting.
information, like Luv said, you deny the flow of water for a certain period of time and then release it in bulk and without giving any information to them. The type of damage that can do to Pakistan is phenomenal. So that should not be discounted. The second
Okay.
aspect is about diplomacy. All along, we have been following that. I mean, what greater diplomacy? Vajpayee made a trip there, seeking peace with them. Mr. Modi also made an unscheduled landing there, trying to win their friendship. So diplomacy is something which has to go on, but you're dealing with fairly unreasonable people. See the power structure in Pakistan. You have a so-called elected government which is controlled by the army. So you're not talking to reasonable people. So while diplomatic effort should continue, definitely it should continue. I mean, you shouldn't cease that. But we have to go beyond that to make them feel the pinch. Okay. Now, as far as military capability is concerned, I don't know, you have downplayed the capability of the Indian Air Force. We are not that badly off as you have put it off. And, the F-16s, they are aging. The F-16s in the Pakistan Air Force are more than 30 years old.
Are
And that's
they?
their most modern aircraft. So we are not that badly off. We are at even par. We can do much, much better as far as our military capability is concerned. But that will take time. So, we should not be worried about the type of retaliation they can think or the threats that they are throwing at us. These are all empty. And from the military point of view, we have very little to worry about as far as our military capability vis-a-vis Pakistan is concerned. We don't have much to worry about at the moment. And though we need to do a lot more to modernize our military, that is, all three services of the military has to be modernized to an extent that we don't continue to be a third world army. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, they are also very badly off, and they're also not getting the spare parts for their tanks and aircrafts and so on, and they don't have really any indigenous development of any weapon systems. So that shouldn't be a worry for anybody as far as Pakistan is concerned. Yes, as far as China is concerned, it's a different ballgame.
And what would India's response actually be, Mr. Avinash Mohananey? Do you actually think that we could go across the border? And I mean, in the past, when we did Balakot, we attacked one base of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, or was it the Jaish-e-Mohammed? I forget which. And today we must have mapped all the madrasas and all the headquarters of all these various groups, but it also is a place which houses hundreds and thousands of young children. I mean, could we actually face down the kind of criticism that could come to us if we did a Gaza in Pakistan? I mean, would we be able to live with that kind of criticism? And the other thing I want, since you've tracked these terror groups, as all of you have, so have you, Love, I wanted to hear about how strong the terror network is, because from what I read, I heard that the ISI and the Pakistan Army had sort of kept these on hold, the Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Jangvi and all of these groups are basically on ice for the moment because they didn't want to be when during this FATF scrutiny, they didn't want to be seen. And although a lot of them reinvented themselves and gave themselves new names, it still isn't as active a force as it used to be. Do you agree with that, Dr. Mohananey?
Yes. First, let us see why the militancy went down in Kashmir. It went down post 2004 after Prime Minister Vajpayee and President Musharraf signed a joint statement in Pakistan, in Islamabad, January 6, 2004, that Musharraf agreed not to allow the areas under its control. Earlier, they would say that the POK is the base camp for the freedom fighting. But in that statement, he agreed not to allow the areas under Pakistan's control to be used for terrorism against any other country. So thereafter, we had seen the efforts made by Musharraf to control the flow of infiltration, and the infiltration post 2004 suddenly dropped. And with drop in the infiltration, the situation improved. While there was continuing violence in the rest of India, there is no doubt about it, because Mumbai also happened after that. We had attack in trains, etc. But in J&K, there was a marked improvement in the situation. So if we say that diplomacy is not useful, yes, it is useful, and it has been tried and tested. It has done many things for us. Now, those training camps that were running in open, like summer camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and in Mansehra and in those areas of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa now, no, now they don't exist in this way. But small level training camp can always be organized in a house or in a slightly open area. It can be done with small number of people. So this is what I think is going on, because there are no major activities being noticed in Pakistan about the terror activities. So training camp doesn't mean that there has to be a camp. Training camp means that there has to be a facility where these people can be brought in, indoctrinated, trained in the basic handling of the weapon system, etc. And then some trial fire, throwing of grenades, these are taught, and then they are infiltrated to our side. So I don't know how many of them we now know, because I am out of the intelligence setup. But at some point of time, yes, we knew where are the training camps located. The terror network can be activated in Pakistan at any short notice.
Really?
And yes, they have the people. There will be large number of cannon fodder available. Who these groups, whether it is Jaish or it's Lashkar, it doesn't matter. They can recruit these people, give them essential training for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then infiltrate with the help of Pakistan Army. They will be infiltrated. They will be kept to lie low. Don't take any confrontation. Keep your weapons and ammunition intact. And as and when required, as happened in the Pahalgam case, as and when required, they can be triggered. So
that's a good point.
Pakistan continues to do that. Even when the situation was improving, which we were very boastful about, the infiltration and trickles continued. We have seen attacks happening in Jammu region, in Punch, when Bilawal Bhutto visited.
Correct.
There have been some major strikes against the Indian army there. So it is not that the infiltration was not continuing. It was continuing, but it was in not alarming level. It was in trickles. So we don't know how it will shape up from now onwards. But I can say for sure, knowing the terrain, knowing the situation, if Pakistan wants, it can send more people. We may be able to intercept few. There is no doubt about it. We have the capacity to intercept, but some will pass through our sieve and cross over to J&K, which Pakistan can activate anytime.
All right. I'm going to go to General Nair because he has to leave in 5 minutes. How is it that Pakistan will be able to justify this? Because when these, as Ms. Luv Puri said about those guys with Sialkot cinema tickets, most of the people who have been, out of the three people who were caught at Baisaran, they were clearly wearing army fatigues, Pakistan army fatigues, and carrying, guns that had come from Afghanistan, Pakistan. So what is our military option? What is going to be our game?
Aspect of exposing Pakistan is concerned, that's a diplomatic effort, and that should continue. And but you realize that that you can keep making efforts, but ultimately the people who matter, that is basically the United States and European countries, they have to believe what you say. They may believe what you say, but they have to accept what you say. And if they don't do it, then exposing Pakistan is a meaningless thing. And as far as the retaliation is concerned, see, whatever decision is taken at the level of the central government, it will be a very, very deliberate and coordinated decision. And it's very difficult to speculate as to how it'll happen, because none of us really expected Balakot. And suddenly, that was the air arm was used, and the air arm has been used for the first time, transborder. So you showed them the ability to hit them in the depth areas. So how exactly the government is going to plan this retaliatory action, I really cannot speculate. But it will be a very concerted and deliberate, decision that will be taken.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Mr. Luv Puri, there has, if I can extend that question a little further, Pakistan also has the ability to, expose, in quotes, expose India, and basically say that India is the one that, is exporting terror, and basically, keeps the Kashmiris under its boot. And therefore, so there could be that aspect as well, where they malign India on its treatment of the Kashmiris, whatever the facts may be. And the other interesting thing that occurred to me is that on the border itself, there are hundreds of families that live along this border in Kathua and Suchetkar. All of them will pay a huge price if there is a land war. And you have been, you've been there, you've seen it firsthand. You've seen the way that people are caught between Pakistan and India. So is that something that India is going to factor in?
So yeah, so your first question is like, Pakistan is going to level, counter allegations. That is expected. Like, I think they've already done it today. And when in Pulwama happened, like, I remember I was at the UN. So, India had its own dossier, and there was a counter dossier from the Pakistani side. So these are this is something expected. At the same point, I think I like to pick from where Avinash left. When this Jafar Express happened, we people, like whosoever tracks Pakistan-India relations, or like how these, how this plays out, perceptions, etc. So how they are going to, like, what they are saying, etc. They started leveling allegations, etc. I don't know, like, whether between these two countries there's a hotline, this conflict management arena, tell them, okay, we are not involved, this is your domestic stuff which has taken place. Because, you see when that incident happened, if you track the Pakistani media, there's a progressive escalation of allegations. Then you have the general statement, which is like, kind of like, really toxic, when it comes to talking about the, that we are different from Hindus, etc. And how that plays out, at the ground level, like, with these terrorists, asking, the identities of, religious identities of tourists.
Well, that's exactly what the Baloch separatists gunmen did on the Jafar Express. They went up to men in Mufti and asked them to whether they were Punjabis before shooting them dead.
There, the that parameter may have been the the ethnicity aspect of it. So my whole humble point is, like, maybe, like, we need to factor in how these things play out. Like, we have seen this like for 80 years, but obviously, like, when it comes to Kashmir, there's a clear cut evidence we have. There's a strong evidence of which is accepted by the international community. But when it comes to Balochistan, it's a bit like, there's hardly any evidence in that respect. So to answer your question, I think we should get back to the basics, do the investigation of what this happened, collect all the evidence. And like we did during the Bombay attacks, we obviously had the man over there, one of the terrorists, and, he said that, we nailed that, this is Pakistani nationals who are involved in this.
Yeah, we had Ajmal Kasab, and now we have Tawahur Rana.
Yeah, we had that advantage of that, at that point of time during the Bombay attacks. Here, we don't have that first, like, the terrorists, but still, there's like so much evidence we can collect. Like, I don't know, there's obviously they didn't use the communication, and this is what the Home Minister said, in the 50-kilometer radius of where this gruesome incident happened. But still, like, whatever evidence we can collect, present it before the international community. Diplomacy is one of the tools. Don't dismiss it altogether. FATF did work to a large extent. If you track Pakistan from 2010 to 2022, 2 times I think they were put in the gray list. And they were trying desperately to get like delisted from that list, because that really impacts them, like in terms of their ability to get funding from multilateral institutions, etc. We should try that route also, like make sure we collect evidence, present it before the international community. But yes, the international community, the world has slightly changed, like, because we have Donald Trump in the US, so it's more of a transactional relationship. They'll see, like, there's not much of an American stake in South Asia. Okay, there's trade, etc. But like, it's not that proactive State Department we are talking about, like, as that happened in the previous attacks. And that plays a very important role in the multilateral arena, Security Council, even the FATF listing. So yeah, so coming to your second question on the, yes, impact, on the border residents, impact will be devastating. Yes, in this hour of national grief, where, we've lost his lives, and this will have to be factored in. It's there's no easy option. There's absolutely no easy option there.
Yeah. No, the other interesting thing is, about the military and its capability, because, right now, even when Israel and Iran were raining missiles on each other, Israel's Iron Dome didn't really wasn't really impervious to every single missile. I mean, they have the David Sling and they have their drones. Do we have the same kind of capability, General Nair? I mean, do we have that kind of technology? And plus, there's also this talk about non-kinetic, offensives, like non-attributable options, like cyber offenses, electronic warfare, wars against the Pakistan public. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? That General Nair, that the technology has changed, has grown so much that there are other ways of going to war with Pakistan other than the military one.
Yeah, there's no doubt over it. But ultimately, what is the war all about? It's all about Kashmir. And Kashmir means territory. And for territory, you have to have boots on the ground, And while we must continue to modernize and use other more economical forms of warfare so that less lives are lost, but in the Indo-Pak context, I don't see any major changes in the near future.
So India and Pakistan, Mr. Mohananey, are both nuclear-armed countries. Back in 2000, I remember when Nawaz Sharif was summoned to Washington after Kargil he was told by President Bill Clinton that the biggest threat to Pakistan came from the nuclear weapons that were actually under the control of mid-level officers. And the international community has long seen, Pakistan as a nursery of terror for a very long time. I mean, 26/11 showed it, the attack on Parliament showed it, the Mumbai attacks, of course, and now the fact that Tawahur Rana will spill the beans, and as David Headley did to the US. So even the US, even the Middle East is looking at Pakistan with grave suspicion. But how do you see Beijing reacting? Because where does this leave China? Because does it have the mind space right now to sort of counter Washington and tackle its wayward ally now,
The only
Pakistan?
time that I saw China on our side was when the Kargil war took place. Even the China told Pakistan the sanctity of the line of control has to be maintained.
Okay.
So that is why I said the line of control is established. Even if you scrap this, even if you say this kept in abeyance, Shimla agreement kept in abeyance, or this agreement, it stays. It's not going anywhere. It is between the two countries, and virtually it has been accepted by the international community. Everyone knows. So suddenly you can't say that we don't accept this line of control. So China has intervened on that. But otherwise, I would say that China has been very lukewarm to Indian requests on banning of these groups, on individuals listing in the UN. We have been facing tough challenge from China. It does concede sometime, but doesn't concede many times. So China is not very supportive of the Indian contentions most of the time on the terror issues. So we should not be relying on China. But if you see that Pakistan's trade is largely with the US and the Western countries, the exports. And with China, it is largely imports. So who matter more is the America and the Western countries. For that, Pakistan can't just give up. So if we are able to rally these countries by whatever evidence that we have of Pakistan's involvement in the Pahalgam attack, it would be good to see that the pressure mounting on them from that side also. Otherwise, if we react on our own without taking the international community with us, then it will be a fight between the two neighbors.
That's right. Yeah, because
One
right now,
Pakistan gives
Prime
one
Minister
question.
Modi, right now, Prime Minister Modi seems to have got the world support. I mean, he's
Yeah,
spoken.
if the international community is siding with us, then yes, we can do something to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Basically, whatever way we can do that, it doesn't happen again, because this is not acceptable now.
So you basically said that we can count on the world's support. But Mr. Luv Puri, do you think we can count on the support of the ordinary Kashmiri, right now? And you've been to POK, you've been to Pakistan occupied Kashmir. What would the mood be there at this kind of, this attack, which basically puts the Kashmiri in peril?
Yeah, so I think as we try to mount a strategy which is like, which factors in the diplomacy, come military, come other factors. We also have to make sure that we are able to somehow create a security architecture within the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Make sure that this place remains not vulnerable to any more violence. Obviously, the incidents will happen. The terrorists are over here, as Avinash pointed out. Like, maybe I think maybe around 120 or 130, 140, terrorists are already active in Jammu and Kashmir, both in Valley and in Jammu Hills. And infiltration, as he said, it can be triggered anytime. So, right now you asked about ordinary people of Jammu and Kashmir, Kashmiri speaking, they're Pahadi speaking, Gujar. So it's a mosaic we're talking about. It's just like, the Indian reality where we are proud of our diversity, unity in diversity. The trick here is to make sure that, we have the civilian deterrence also. And as I was pointing out earlier, that we have to make sure that this groundswell of this Kashmiri anger towards this, because Kashmiris are known for their hospitality, not for the last 10 years, 100 years. They have a long history, and we have to capitalize on that. Whether we have the political infrastructure in place, the local political infrastructure in place or not, we have to enable that. And center, as I mentioned in my article, if you can provide a link in the when it is uploaded, as I mentioned, from Nehru to Vajpayee, there was more or less consensus that there was all party consensus on Jammu and Kashmir. There are mistakes made, definitely, and mistakes have been acknowledged by, and this is the beauty of democracy. When Vajpayee said, I think I was there in the press conference when he said that, election should be free and fair. Earlier, they have been, he hinted towards. So I think that was the beauty of our democracy, that we learn our lessons, make it factor that in, and make sure that, coming to the present, that, this political, we are able to mobilize this, this anger towards terrorism politically. And for that, you need to empower the local leadership in a complete manner. The dual control, again, like, whatever you have to do, make sure that, there is, buck should stop with one person. As I said, like the whole society should be completely mobilized, vis-a-vis, against terrorism. And for that, we need to make some corrections. We have to learn our lessons. I think internally we should be making sure that, we learn our lessons, like, and make sure that, we are able to provide civilian deterrence. There was a second question I'm forgetting that you asked.
It's gone out of my head.
Yeah. Okay. So so more or less, so it's kind of like, again, there's some obvious things, no brainer, that tourism statistics is not a sign of normality, because
that's a good point that you made. Yes.
Yeah, because then we make them prone to one strike, and they're able to say, oh, there's nothing normal. So there are institutional lessons we already have, like, as this saga of Jammu and Kashmir for the last.
I asked you about the situation in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, actually.
So the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, that's again,
I mean, I just wanted to find out, I just want to gauge, because I mean, when you travel inside Indian, our Jammu and Kashmir, you have a great sense of warmth and affection that they all give you, but and they're not hesitant to tell you the truth. Are they equally, dual? Do they have dual loyalties in POK? Is what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, got you. So I think at a person-to-person level, I think even Avinash may have also met, and you may have also met. Even Pakistani, there's no problem. There's a lot of warmth from ordinary Pakistanis. The problem is there, like, in the in the people who are in the power structure. How they've internalized that notion, and that creates a problem. Ordinary person over there, again, when we talk about Pakistan occupied Kashmir, again, ethnically they are not Kashmiri speaking. They are Pahadi speaking. They're
Okay.
yeah. So they speak Pahadi language, which is closer to Rajouri and Poonch areas of Jammu division as compared to Kashmir Valley. So there is there's cultural, ethnic differentiation from people who live in Kashmir Valley, and that's a primary reason that Kashmir Valley sided with India in 1947 under the leadership of Sheikh Abdullah and Jawaharlal Nehru and others. Because they were not somehow happy with the potential Punjabi domination. And the POK is a Pahadi speaking area. Pahadi is a language which is closer to Punjabi. So there are familial ties between Punjab and POK, etc. But at the same point, as mentioned in my book also, there's a litany of grievances, etc. One is about the Mirpur dam, which is built, but most of the electricity goes to Pakistan, whereas the local residents are also charged the same charged the same price for every unit as the rest of.
So I mean, concluding remarks, and from both of you, if you can, because I'm running out of time. What do you see happening in the coming weeks? Is there going to be a major? Is India and Pakistan going to go to war, or is it going to be war by other means?
Yeah, you are.
I hope not.
Yeah, please, Avinash, you go ahead.
I hope not. There is no war between the two countries. And what I would like to see is that both countries are able to list out their grievances against each other and resolve them either bilaterally or through international mediation or whatever it is. But at least this issue has to be diluted and resolved for time being now. And then we gradually build on the peace between the two countries. We know that the peace on the line of control and the international border that was brokered by UAE has been holding for so long. So
this was the back channel that happened between Mr. General Bajwa and our National Security Advisor.
Yeah, but UAE played a major role in that. So
that's right.
So if that can be sustained for so long, so that we can also sustain the reduction in the built up of pent up anger on both sides, that has to be brought down gradually. Otherwise, conflict would not take us anywhere. It will only aggravate the situation further.
That's very well put. But the Baisaran bloodbath, actually, why did it even happen is something which defeats me, Mr. Luv Puri. So, I mean, what can we see happening as, Mr. Luv Puri, are you frozen?
Yeah, I'm listening.
No.
I'm listening.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that the Baisaran bloodbath. I mean, what prompted General Asim Munir to, even signal that something like that should be done? It intrigues me even now because there are no clear answers. And what do you see happening now after in the fact the world's condemnation and India's grief, which is literally now not been assuaged by anything?
Neena, frankly, to be honest with you, I really don't know, what's the trigger. Tourists have normally not attacked. Yes, Amarnath pilgrims have been attacked in the past. And it's, when you go to, whenever you're in Srinagar or Kashmir Valley, wherever you are, they always say that, even the security agencies, the apparatus, etc., they say, the tourists are not attacked. So this was assurance, with which the tourists went to Kashmir Valley. So there's absolutely, I really don't have an answer why this has happened. I think that will be, I'll be entering in the realm of speculation. But at the same point, I must say that, again, whenever, how that, there have been attacks which have surprised many, in Jammu and Kashmir. 2001, 2002, Nadima Kashmiri Pandits were attacked. Again, some said, oh, there had been attacks on Kashmiri Pandits, like, before that, 119, I think, as per the assembly figures, but, such a big attack, 21, 22. So Kashmir always surprises you. Like, it's very difficult to nail down a particular reason why this has happened. When the terrorists are inside, when the infiltration is taking place for the last 2 years, many of us, have been writing about it, countless columns, etc. The border residents have been talking about it, that, infiltration is taking place, etc., etc. I think we should be sensitive to that. Like, these guys, these terrorists, if they're coming here, they are just not going to roam in the mountains. They just need a moment to, like, to surprise us. And this is what has happened. This is, we should pay attention to the infiltration, when the border residents are repeatedly talking about it. What's going to happen? Again, I think it's again hard to guess. We know, like, what has happened in the past, but at the same point, US may not be that active, but I think the Middle Eastern countries, as
Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
Yeah, they may be playing behind the scenes. After all, Prime Minister was in Saudi Arabia, when this happened.
Correct.
And they have stakes in both countries, etc. They, they can, pass on the messages, etc. But, again, it's hard to know, like, what's, because, again, there is that there's that anger, etc. I don't know how, this only the government machinery knows. People at the helm of affairs know that, what they're planning. They have already taken few steps, interim steps, like the Indus water treaty, etc. So let's see.
So let's see where it pans out, because
Yeah.
all eyes right now are on the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, because he's received enormous support from all the major countries in the world.
Yeah. At the same point, I like to say that, like, we should, again, in this age of social media, etc., etc., the government should not be pressurized to take some immediate knee-jerk action. Give them space. Give them space. Game plan everything. Forward planning analysis. Like, as you mentioned, border residents, etc. Where's going to be the impact? Impact is not going to be in Delhi or Bangalore or Chennai or Calcutta. The impact is going to be along the border areas, from Jammu to Kashmir Valley. They may not, like, again, I was like, just having a text exchange with some of my Kashmiri journalists. I said, if there is something, they won't be like in Kashmir Valley because of obvious reasons. From Jammu to Punjab, etc. These are like thickly populated border areas. Not only border, we shouldn't take the border as in, like, in 3 minutes the fighter jets are inside densely populated areas.
Yeah, the distance is nothing.
So we have to factor in all that. Give the government of the day space, what to do. They have all the machinery, all the information, what has happened in the past. Let them decide. So yeah, so this is what I have to say.
So in conclusion, we'll have to see where India goes, going forward, because, I mean, and what type of and kind of support it receives in the coming days. Is it going to be better intel? Is it going to be state-of-the-art military equipment from from countries like Washington and Israel, as it has in the past? And is it going to be the diplomatic pressure that forces Pakistan to back off? India also, of course, must step up with sanitization of the Kashmir Valley, track down terrorists in the upper reaches of the mountains, so that there is no repeat of Pahalgam. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohananey. Thank you, Mr. Luv Puri. And thank you, General Sathish Nair, for taking part in Global Express. Thank you, viewers, for watching. Do click and share.